What's up, everybody? Tonight's feature is Your Life as Miyamoto Musashi. Let's not wait, the tale awaits. You wake up in the early morning hours, the sun barely peeking through the curtains of your modest apartment in the Netherlands. And for a moment you forget who you are. Forget the battles you've fought, the glory you've tasted, and the pain you've endured. But then your body reminds you, the familiar ache in your joints, the old injuries that never quite heal completely, and you remember that you are Musashi, though the world knows you by many names, and your journey to this moment has been anything but ordinary. The alarm hasn't gone off yet, but your internal clock, honed by years of rigorous training and discipline, pulls you from sleep with the precision of a Swiss timepiece. You lie there for a few minutes, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the path that brought you here, from those early days when you were just a kid with too much energy and not enough direction, growing up between cultures, between worlds, never quite fitting into any single box that society tried to place you in. Your mother, bless her heart, she tried to understand your restlessness, your need to move, to fight, to prove something that even you couldn't quite articulate back then. She would watch you practice your kicks against the heavy bag your father had reluctantly hung in the garage, worry etched across her face as she wondered where this intensity came from, this drive that seemed to consume you from the inside out. Your father, he understood better perhaps, having his own relationship with discipline and structure, but even he couldn't have predicted where your journey would take you. You remember those first tentative steps into the local gym, how intimidating it all seemed, the sounds of leather against skin, the grunts and gasps of exertion, the smell of sweat and determination that permeated everything. You were just a teenager then, lanky and awkward, unsure of yourself in so many ways, but something about the controlled violence of martial arts spoke to you on a level that nothing else had ever managed to reach. The older fighters took notice of you quickly, not because you were the most talented or the strongest, but because you had something that couldn't be taught, a natural understanding of distance and timing that separated the good from the great. Your coaches would watch you spar with fighters who had years more experience, and they would see something in your movements, a fluidity that seemed almost effortless, as if you were born to do this. But success didn't come overnight, and the path was littered with defeats that stung worse than any physical injury. You remember your first amateur fight, how your hands shook as you walked to the ring, how the lights seemed brighter than the sun, how every sound in the arena seemed amplified tenfold. Your opponent was more experienced, more confident, and he showed you just how much you still had to learn. The loss was devastating, not because of the defeat itself, but because it revealed to you the vast distance between where you were and where you wanted to be. That night, alone in your room, you made a promise to yourself that you would never feel that unprepared again. You started training with a ferocity that surprised even your coaches, arriving at the gym before anyone else and leaving long after the lights had been dimmed. Every technique became an obsession, every movement dissected and reconstructed until it became second nature. You studied fighters from around the world, watching tape until your eyes burned, absorbing their styles, their strategies, their mental approaches to the game. Your breakthrough came not in some dramatic fashion, but gradually, like water wearing away stone. Each fight taught you something new about yourself, about your capabilities and your limitations. You learned to embrace the pressure rather than run from it, to find calm in the chaos of combat. Your coaches began to see something special in you, the way you could adapt mid-fight, the way you seemed to anticipate your opponent's moves before they made them. The transition from amateur to professional was both thrilling and terrifying. Suddenly, there was money involved, real consequences beyond just personal pride. Your first professional fight was against a veteran who was supposed to be a stepping stone, an easy win to build your confidence. Instead, he gave you one of the toughest fights of your early career, pushing you to places you didn't know you could go, forcing you to dig deeper than you ever had before. When you finally got the victory, it felt different than any amateur win, more significant somehow, as if you had crossed some invisible threshold into a new phase of your life. The early days of your professional career were a whirlwind of small venues and modest paydays, but each fight built upon the last, creating a foundation of experience that would serve you well in the years to come. You fought anyone they put in front of you, traveling across Europe, taking fights on short notice, building a reputation as someone who would show up and perform regardless of the circumstances. Your style was evolving too, becoming more sophisticated, more nuanced, as you began to understand that fighting at the highest level was as much about intelligence as it was about physical ability. Your coaches during those formative years were instrumental in shaping not just your technique but your mindset. They taught you to see fighting not as a violent confrontation, but as a chess match played at superhuman speed, where every movement had consequences that rippled through the entire contest. They showed you how to break down opponents systematically, how to identify weaknesses and exploit them, how to impose your will through technique rather than just raw aggression. The gym became your second home, the place where you felt most like yourself. The rhythmic sound of gloves hitting pads, the squeak of shoes on canvas, the controlled chaos of sparring sessions, all of it combined to create an environment where you could push yourself beyond normal human limitations. Your training partners became like brothers, sharing in the suffering and the triumph, understanding the sacrifices required to pursue excellence in such a demanding sport. You remember the first time someone recognized you on the street, how strange it felt to be known by strangers, to have your face associated with something larger than yourself. Fame, you discovered, was a double-edged sword, bringing opportunities and attention but also pressure and expectations that sometimes felt overwhelming. People began to have opinions about you, about your fighting style, about your personality, based on glimpses they caught through television screens and magazine articles. The media attention grew gradually, and you learned to navigate interviews and photo shoots with the same methodical approach you applied to fight preparation. Every word became calculated, every gesture considered, because you understood that your reputation extended far beyond what happened inside the ring. You developed a public persona that was professional and respectful, but you kept your true self guarded, sharing only what was necessary while protecting the parts of yourself that remained vulnerable. Your family watched your rise with a mixture of pride and concern. They celebrated your victories, but worried about the toll the sport was taking on your body and mind. Your mother would call after every fight, her voice tight with anxiety until she heard that you were okay, that you had made it through another battle relatively unscathed. Your father would offer technical advice, having become something of an expert himself through watching countless hours of your fights and training footage. The international stage beckoned as your reputation grew, and soon you found yourself competing against fighters from around the world, each bringing their own unique style and approach to the sport. These fights tested you in ways that domestic competition never could, forcing you to adapt to different rhythms, different strategies, different ways of thinking about combat. You learn to adjust your game plan based on cultural fighting styles, understanding that a fighter's background often influenced their approach in subtle but significant ways. Your first major tournament was both exhilarating and educational. The level of competition was unlike anything you had experienced before, with each opponent representing the best their country had to offer. The pressure was immense, not just from the fights themselves, but from the knowledge that your performance would be judged on an international stage. You advanced through the early rounds methodically, each victory building confidence while also raising the stakes for the next contest. The semifinals of that tournament remain vivid in your memory, facing an opponent who was considered by many to be the favorite to win the entire competition. He had a style that was difficult to read, mixing traditional techniques with modern innovations in ways that had confounded many previous opponents. The fight itself was a masterclass in adaptation, with both of you making adjustments throughout the contest, constantly evolving your strategies based on what was working and what wasn't. Victory in that semifinal felt like a breakthrough moment, not just because it put you in the finals, but because it proved to yourself that you belonged at the highest level of the sport. The final was almost anticlimactic in comparison, your opponent seeming to wilt under the pressure while you felt more composed than you had all tournament. When the final bell rang and your hand was raised in victory, the feeling was indescribable, a mixture of relief, pride, and validation that made all the years of training and sacrifice seem worthwhile. The championship brought with it new opportunities and new challenges. Suddenly, you were no longer chasing recognition, but trying to maintain it, defending your position rather than attacking someone else's. The psychology of being a champion was different from being a challenger, requiring a different kind of mental preparation and a different relationship with pressure and expectation. Your training evolved to match your new status, becoming more sophisticated and specialized. You began working with experts in various fields, nutritionists and sports psychologists, strength and conditioning coaches who understood the specific demands of elite-level combat sports. Every aspect of your preparation became optimized, from your sleep schedule to your recovery protocols, all in service of maintaining peak performance for as long as possible. The title defenses that followed were each unique challenges, as opponents studied your style more intensively, looking for weaknesses they could exploit. You found yourself constantly evolving, adding new techniques to your arsenal, refining existing skills, always staying one step ahead of those who would take your place. The process was exhausting but also invigorating, like a constant puzzle that required both physical and mental solutions. Your reputation began to extend beyond just your fighting ability to include your professionalism and sportsmanship. You treated opponents with respect, conducted yourself with dignity in victory and defeat, and became known as someone who elevated the sport through his conduct both inside and outside the ring. This reputation opened doors to opportunities beyond just fighting, endorsements and appearances that provided financial security and helped raise your profile even further. The international fighting scene was changing during your prime years, with new organizations emerging and existing ones evolving their approaches to competition and promotion. You navigated these changes carefully, making strategic decisions about where to compete and against whom, always with an eye toward building your legacy, while also maximizing your earning potential during the relatively brief window of peak athletic performance. One of the most significant moments in your career came when you were invited to compete in Japan, a country with a rich tradition of martial arts and a sophisticated understanding of combat sports. The atmosphere there was unlike anywhere else you had fought, with a respect for technique and tradition that was both inspiring and intimidating. The Japanese fans appreciated subtlety and skill in ways that other audiences sometimes missed, creating an environment where technical excellence was rewarded as much as dramatic knockouts. Your first fight in Japan was against a local favorite, someone who embodied the technical precision and mental discipline that characterized the best Japanese fighters. The preparation for that fight required you to elevate your own technical game to match the expectations of the audience and the quality of the opposition. You spent months refining techniques that you had previously considered adequate, pushing them to levels of precision that bordered on artistic. The fight itself was a technical masterpiece, with both of you displaying skills at the highest possible level. Every exchange was meaningful, every position carefully contested, every transition executed with the kind of precision that only comes from years of dedicated practice. When you finally secured the victory, it felt different from your previous wins, more earned somehow, as if you had passed some kind of test that went beyond just defeating an opponent. Your success in Japan opened up new possibilities for your career, and you found yourself drawn back there repeatedly over the years. Each visit deepened your appreciation for the sport and your understanding of your own place within its history. You began to see yourself not just as a competitor, but as a custodian of traditions that stretched back generations, someone responsible for maintaining and advancing the art form that had given your life so much meaning. The transition periods between major fights became almost as important as the competitions themselves, times when you could reflect on your career trajectory and make adjustments to your approach. You studied other sports and other athletes, looking for insights that could be applied to your own development. You read books about strategy and psychology, always searching for edges that could give you advantages when it mattered most. Your relationship with your coaches evolved over the years, moving from a simple student-teacher dynamic to something more collaborative and nuanced. They began to seek your input on training methods and fight strategies, recognizing that your experience and intuition had become valuable assets in their own right. These relationships became some of the most meaningful in your life, built on mutual respect and shared dedication to excellence. The gym environment changed around you as your career progressed, with younger fighters coming up through the ranks, looking to you for guidance and inspiration. You found yourself taking on a mentor role almost naturally, sharing knowledge and experience with the next generation while also learning from their fresh perspectives and innovations. This cycle of teaching and learning kept your own approach dynamic and prevented the kind of stagnation that had ended many careers. Your fights during your peak years were increasingly strategic affairs, with opponents spending months preparing specifically for your style and tendencies. This meant that your own preparation had to become more sophisticated as well, with your team developing multiple game plans for different scenarios that might unfold during a contest. The mental aspect of fighting became as important as the physical, requiring you to be ready for whatever your opponent might present. One particular fight stands out in your memory, against an opponent who had studied your previous contests so thoroughly that he seemed to anticipate your every move. The first round was frustrating as nothing you tried seemed to work the way it had in previous fights. Between rounds, your corner made crucial adjustments, identifying patterns in your opponent's defensive reactions and devising strategies to exploit them. The second and third rounds were completely different, with you implementing these adjustments seamlessly and eventually securing a dominant victory. That fight taught you valuable lessons about adaptation and problem-solving under pressure that served you well throughout the remainder of your career. It also reinforced the importance of having a team around you that could see things from different perspectives and provide solutions when your own approach wasn't working. Fighting at the highest level, you realized, was truly a team sport despite appearing to be an individual endeavor. Your championship reigns were marked by a series of increasingly difficult challenges, each opponent bringing something unique that tested different aspects of your game. Some were physical specimens who tried to overwhelm you with athleticism. Others were technical masters who attempted to outskill you. And still others were mental warriors who tried to break you down psychologically. Each fight required a different version of yourself, and you took pride in your ability to rise to meet whatever challenge was presented. The pressure of being champion was constant and unrelenting. Every public appearance, every interview, every training session was scrutinized for signs of weakness or decline. Opponents and their teams studied your every movement, looking for tells that might give them advantages in future contests. The spotlight was always on, making it impossible to have truly private moments of doubt or vulnerability. Your personal life during these peak years was necessarily constrained by the demands of your career. Relationships were difficult to maintain when your focus had to be so singular and your schedule so demanding. You learned to be selective about how you spent your time and energy, understanding that every decision had to be evaluated in terms of its impact on your performance and your ability to defend your title successfully. The financial rewards of championship-level competition allowed you to provide for your family in ways that had once seemed impossible, but they also brought new responsibilities and pressures. You found yourself becoming involved in business decisions and investment opportunities, requiring you to develop skills far removed from fighting, but equally important for long-term security and success. Your training camps during title defense periods were intensive affairs that could last for months, with every detail carefully planned and executed. Your daily routine became almost ritualistic in its precision, from your morning wake-up time to your evening recovery protocols. This level of structure was necessary to maintain peak condition, but it also required significant mental discipline to avoid burnout and maintain motivation over such extended periods. The psychological preparation for championship fights was as important as the physical training, requiring you to visualize success while also preparing mentally for every possible scenario that might unfold. You worked with sports psychologists to develop coping strategies for different types of pressure and stress, learning techniques that helped you stay calm and focused even in the most challenging circumstances. Your corner team during these years became like a family, with each member playing a crucial role in your success. Your head trainer provided technical expertise and strategic guidance. Your conditioning coach ensured that your physical preparation was optimal, and your cutman and other support staff handled the countless details that allowed you to focus solely on fighting. The trust and communication between you and this team was essential to your continued success. The media obligations that came with being a champion were extensive and time-consuming, but you learned to view them as part of your professional responsibilities rather than unwelcome distractions. Press conferences, photo shoots, and promotional appearances all required different skills and different versions of your public persona, but you approached them with the same professionalism that characterized your approach to training and competition. Your reputation for fair play and respect for opponents became one of your defining characteristics, setting you apart from some other fighters who relied on controversy and conflict to generate interest in their fights. You believed that the sport was elevated by competitors who conducted themselves with dignity, and you tried to be an example of how a champion should behave both in victory and defeat. The international nature of your competition during these years exposed you to different cultures and different approaches to martial arts, broadening your perspective and deepening your appreciation for the global community of fighters. You formed friendships with competitors from around the world, relationships that transcended the competitive aspects of your interactions and enriched your understanding of the sport's place in different societies. Your fights during this period were increasingly analyzed and dissected by experts and fans alike, with every technique and strategy examined in minute detail. This level of scrutiny was both flattering and pressure-inducing, as it meant that your performances were being judged by extremely knowledgeable audiences who understood the subtleties of high-level competition. The evolution of your own style during these peak years was gradual but constant, with small refinements and adjustments accumulating over time to create significant improvements in your overall effectiveness. You never stopped learning and growing as a fighter, always looking for ways to become more efficient, more dangerous, and more difficult to prepare for. Your training partners during this period were carefully selected for their ability to provide specific challenges that would prepare you for different types of opponents. Some specialized in particular styles or techniques. Others brought different physical attributes or mental approaches that forced you to adapt and improve. These partnerships were mutually beneficial, with your training partners also gaining valuable experience from working with a champion-level fighter. The business side of your career became increasingly complex during your championship years, with multiple revenue streams and opportunities requiring careful management and decision-making. You learned to surround yourself with trusted advisors who could help navigate these complexities while allowing you to maintain your primary focus on fighting and training. Your relationship with your fans evolved during this period as well, as your success brought you into contact with people from all walks of life who had been inspired by your journey and your approach to competition. Fan mail, social media interactions, and personal encounters at events gave you insight into the impact your career was having beyond just the fighting itself. The charitable work and community involvement that you began during your championship years provided important perspective and fulfillment beyond the competitive aspects of your career. Working with young people and supporting causes that were meaningful to you helped maintain your connection to the broader world and reminded you of your responsibilities as a public figure. Your preparation for each title defense became increasingly sophisticated, with detailed analysis of opponents' strengths, weaknesses, and tendencies, informing every aspect of your training approach. Video study became a crucial component of your preparation, with hours spent analyzing footage and developing specific strategies for neutralizing opponents' best weapons while maximizing your own advantages. The physical demands of maintaining championship-level conditioning year-round were enormous, requiring careful attention to recovery, nutrition, and injury prevention. Your medical team became an essential part of your support structure, helping you manage the accumulated wear and tear of years of high-level competition while keeping you healthy enough to continue performing at peak levels. Your mental preparation evolved to include techniques for managing the unique pressures of championship fights, where the stakes were always highest and the margin for error smallest. Meditation, visualization, and other psychological tools became as important as physical training in maintaining your competitive edge and your ability to perform when it mattered most. The legacy considerations that began to enter your thinking during your championship years added another dimension to your decision-making process. Every fight became part of a larger narrative about your career and your place in the sport's history, requiring you to balance short-term competitive goals with longer-term considerations about how you wanted to be remembered. Your influence on the sport during your championship reign extended beyond just your fighting performances to include your role in elevating the technical and professional standards expected of elite competitors. Other fighters began to emulate aspects of your approach and preparation, raising the overall level of competition in ways that benefited the entire sport. The international recognition that came with sustained success at the championship level opened doors to opportunities and experiences that went far beyond fighting, including cultural exchanges, business ventures, and relationships that enriched your life in unexpected ways. Your identity began to expand beyond just being a fighter to include roles as an ambassador for the sport and a representative of your country and culture. Your training methodology during these peak years became a model that other fighters and coaches studied and attempted to replicate, though the success of any approach ultimately depended on the individual characteristics and dedication of the athlete implementing it. You took pride in contributing to the evolution of training methods and fighting techniques in ways that would benefit future generations of competitors. The sacrifices required to maintain championship-level performance for extended periods were enormous, affecting every aspect of your life from personal relationships to career opportunities outside of fighting. You made these sacrifices willingly, understanding that the window for peak athletic performance was limited and that maximizing your potential required total commitment to your craft. Your championship fights during this period were increasingly viewed as historic events, with each contest adding to your legacy and contributing to the growing mythology surrounding your career. The pressure of living up to these expectations was immense, but you learned to channel it into motivation rather than allowing it to become a burden that hindered your performance. The technical innovations and strategic insights that you developed during your championship years influenced not only your own performance, but also the broader evolution of fighting techniques and training methods throughout the sport. Your willingness to experiment and adapt helped push the boundaries of what was considered possible in terms of skill development and competitive performance. Your role as a mentor to younger fighters became increasingly important during these years, as you recognized the responsibility that came with your position and your knowledge. Sharing your experience and insights with the next generation became a source of satisfaction that complemented the competitive fulfillment you derived from your own fighting career. The global nature of your competition during your championship reign exposed you to the highest levels of international competition, testing your skills against the best fighters from every continent and every fighting tradition. These experiences broadened your technical knowledge and cultural understanding, while providing the ultimate validation of your abilities on the world stage. The years began to accumulate, and with them came a different kind of wisdom, one forged in the crucible of countless battles, and tempered by the reality that even the greatest champions must eventually face their own mortality within the sport. You found yourself in hotel rooms across the world, staring at reflections in bathroom mirrors after training sessions, noticing changes that most people would never see, but that you, with your intimate knowledge of your own body, could detect with startling clarity. Your hands, once smooth and unmarked, now bore the accumulated scars of 1,000 training sessions and dozens of professional contests. Each mark told a story, represented a lesson learned or a moment of triumph earned through pain and perseverance. You would flex your fingers in the morning, feeling the stiffness that had become a constant companion, remembering when movement had been effortless and unconscious rather than something that required active management and careful attention. The gym continued to be your sanctuary, but your relationship with it had evolved in subtle but meaningful ways. Where once you had approached training with the reckless abandon of youth, throwing yourself into every session with complete disregard for consequences, you now brought a measured approach that balanced intensity with intelligence, understanding that preservation was as important as progression at this stage of your career. Your younger training partners looked at you with a mixture of admiration and curiosity, wondering what it felt like to have achieved everything you had accomplished, not understanding that achievement in fighting was not a destination, but a continuous journey of maintenance and adaptation. They saw the titles and the recognition, but they couldn't yet comprehend the daily discipline required to sustain excellence over years rather than moments. The fight offers that came your way during this period required increasingly careful consideration, as each potential matchup carried implications that extended far beyond just the immediate contest. Your team would spend hours analyzing not just the fighting capabilities of potential opponents, but also the career implications of various scenarios, understanding that at your level, every decision could significantly impact your legacy and your future opportunities. Your training camps had become more sophisticated and specialized, with every aspect optimized through years of experimentation and refinement. The luxury of resources that your success had provided allowed you to assemble teams of experts who could address every conceivable aspect of preparation, from the most advanced sports science to the most nuanced psychological preparation techniques. The mental aspect of competition had become increasingly complex as your career progressed, requiring you to navigate not just the immediate pressures of individual fights, but also the broader expectations and narratives that surrounded your career. Media and fans had created storylines and expectations that sometimes bore little resemblance to your own motivations and goals, requiring careful management to maintain your own authentic relationship with the sport. Your family relationships had evolved to accommodate the unique demands and rewards of your career, with your loved ones developing their own understanding of what your success meant and what it required from all of you. They had learned to live with the rhythms of training camps and fight schedules, celebrating victories while also providing emotional support during the inevitable disappointments and setbacks that punctuated even the most successful careers. The business aspects of your career had grown increasingly complex, with multiple income streams and investment opportunities requiring attention and decision-making that went far beyond just fighting. You had learned to surround yourself with trusted advisors who could help navigate these waters while protecting your interests and preserving your focus on what mattered most to you personally and professionally. Your public persona had crystallized over the years into something that felt both authentic to who you were and appropriate for your role as a representative of the sport. You had learned to be selective about which aspects of your personality and life to share publicly, maintaining privacy and authenticity, while also meeting the legitimate expectations of fans and media who had supported your career. The international nature of your career had provided you with perspectives and experiences that extended far beyond just fighting, exposing you to different cultures, philosophies, and approaches to life that had enriched your understanding of your own place in the world. These experiences had made you a more complete person while also informing your approach to competition and training in subtle but important ways. Your influence on the sport had become undeniable, with younger fighters studying your techniques and approaches while also trying to find ways to improve upon them. This cycle of influence and innovation was something you took pride in, understanding that your contribution to the sport's evolution would continue long after your own competitive career had ended. The physical maintenance required to compete at the highest levels had become increasingly demanding, with recovery protocols and injury prevention measures taking up more and more of your time and attention. You had assembled a team of medical professionals who understood the unique demands of your sport and could help you manage the accumulated wear and tear of years of high-level competition. Your relationship with training had evolved from something purely focused on improvement to something that balanced development with preservation, understanding that maintaining your existing capabilities was as important as acquiring new ones. This shift required a different kind of discipline and self-awareness than you had needed in your younger years, but it was no less demanding or important. The strategic aspects of fight preparation had become increasingly sophisticated, with detailed analysis of opponents leading to highly specific training protocols and game plans. Your team had developed systematic approaches to breaking down different types of fighters and preparing for various scenarios that might unfold during competition, giving you confidence that you were as prepared as possible for whatever challenges awaited. Your legacy considerations had become more prominent in your decision-making process, with each potential fight evaluated not just for its immediate benefits, but also for its impact on how your career would be remembered. This long-term perspective brought both additional pressure and additional motivation, as you understood that the final chapters of your career would significantly influence how the entire story was perceived. The mentorship role that you had gradually assumed with younger fighters had become one of the most rewarding aspects of your continued involvement in the sport, providing opportunities to share knowledge and experience while also learning from fresh perspectives and approaches. These relationships reminded you of your own early days in the gym and the fighters who had helped shape your development during those crucial formative years. Your fights during this later period of your career were increasingly viewed through the lens of historical significance, with each performance analyzed not just for its immediate merits, but also for its place in the broader narrative of your career and the sport's evolution. This additional layer of meaning made competition both more significant and more complex, requiring you to balance historical consciousness with the immediate demands of effective performance. The preparation rituals and routines that you had developed over years of competition had become deeply ingrained, providing psychological comfort and practical benefits that helped you navigate the increasing complexities of high-level preparation. These routines served as anchors in an environment where many variables were beyond your control, giving you stability and confidence in your approach. Your understanding of your own strengths and limitations had reached a level of sophistication that allowed for highly efficient and targeted preparation, focusing your limited time and energy on the areas where improvement was most possible and most necessary. This self-knowledge was perhaps the most valuable asset you had developed over years of competition and analysis. The international fighting community had become a familiar network of competitors, coaches, and officials who shared a common understanding of the demands and rewards of high-level competition. These relationships provided support and perspective that extended beyond immediate competitive concerns, creating a sense of belonging and shared purpose that enriched the entire experience of being a professional fighter. Your approach to nutrition and physical preparation had evolved into a highly sophisticated system based on years of experimentation and the integration of cutting-edge sports science with practical experience. This approach had become a model that other fighters studied and attempted to adapt to their own circumstances, though you understood that individual differences meant that no single approach worked for everyone. The psychological tools and techniques that you had developed for managing competition stress and performance pressure had applications beyond just fighting, providing benefits in other areas of your life where high-level performance was required. These skills had become part of your permanent toolkit, available for use in any situation where mental strength and clarity were important. Your relationship with your coaches had evolved into true partnerships based on mutual respect and shared expertise, with your experience and intuition complementing their technical knowledge and objective perspective. These relationships had become some of the most important in your life, built on trust and shared commitment to excellence that transcended the purely professional aspects of your collaboration. The financial security that your success had provided had given you freedom to make decisions based on factors beyond just immediate monetary considerations, allowing you to pursue fights and opportunities that aligned with your personal and professional goals rather than just financial necessity. This freedom was something you never took for granted, remembering the early days when every opportunity had to be evaluated primarily through the lens of financial survival. Your public speaking and media skills had developed significantly over the years, allowing you to articulate your thoughts and perspectives in ways that accurately represented your views, while also meeting the needs of different audiences and contexts. These communication abilities had opened doors to opportunities beyond just fighting, while also helping you better represent yourself and your sport to the broader public. The charitable work and community involvement that had become part of your regular activities provided important perspective and fulfillment that complemented your competitive pursuits. Working with young people and supporting causes that were meaningful to you helped maintain your connection to the broader world, while also giving back to communities that had supported your development and success. Your training environments had been carefully curated over the years to provide optimal conditions for different types of preparation, from technical skill development to physical conditioning to mental preparation. These environments had become extensions of your professional identity, designed to support and enhance every aspect of your development and maintenance as a high-level competitor. The travel demands of your international career had required you to develop efficient systems for maintaining your preparation and performance regardless of location or circumstances. This adaptability had become one of your key competitive advantages, allowing you to compete effectively anywhere in the world without significant disruption to your established routines and protocols. Your understanding of the sport's history and traditions had deepened over the years, giving you perspective on your own place within the broader narrative of martial arts development and competition. This historical consciousness informed your approach to competition, while also providing motivation to contribute positively to the sport's continued evolution and growth. The technical innovations and strategic insights that you had developed through years of high-level competition had influenced not only your own performance, but also the broader development of fighting techniques and training methodologies throughout the sport. Your willingness to experiment and share knowledge had contributed to advances that benefited competitors at all levels. Your preparation for major fights had become increasingly systematic and comprehensive, with detailed protocols for every aspect of physical, technical, and mental preparation. These systems had been refined through experience and had proven their effectiveness in the most demanding competitive circumstances, providing confidence and structure for the most important moments of your career. The recovery and regeneration protocols that you had developed were as sophisticated as your training methods, recognizing that the ability to recover effectively was just as important as the ability to train intensively. These approaches had helped you maintain high performance levels over extended periods while managing the accumulated stress of years of high-level competition. Your relationship with competition had evolved from something purely focused on victory to something that encompassed broader goals related to performance, development, and contribution to the sport. This evolution had made competition more complex, but also more meaningful, providing satisfaction that extended beyond just winning and losing. The media and promotional aspects of your career had required you to develop skills and perspectives that were quite different from those needed for competition itself. But you had approached these challenges with the same dedication and professionalism that characterized your approach to fighting. These abilities had enhanced your career opportunities while also helping to promote the sport more broadly. Your influence on training methodologies and fighting techniques had extended beyond just your own performances to impact the broader development of the sport, with innovations and insights from your career being studied and implemented by competitors and coaches around the world. This contribution to the sport's evolution was something you took particular pride in, understanding its lasting significance. The strategic partnerships and business relationships that you had developed over the years had created opportunities that extended far beyond your fighting career, providing foundations for long-term success and influence that would continue long after your competitive days had ended. These relationships had been built on mutual respect and shared values, creating value for all parties involved. Your approach to managing the pressures and expectations of high-level competition had evolved into a comprehensive system for maintaining mental health and performance under extreme stress. This system had proven its effectiveness in the most demanding circumstances and had applications beyond just fighting, providing tools for success in any high-pressure environment. The international recognition and respect that you had earned through years of high-level performance had opened doors to experiences and opportunities that had enriched your life in ways that extended far beyond just professional success. These experiences had broadened your perspective and deepened your appreciation for the global community of which you had become a part. Your training philosophy had evolved to emphasize sustainability and longevity over short-term gains, recognizing that career success required careful management of resources and intelligent decision-making over extended periods. This approach had allowed you to maintain high performance levels longer than many of your contemporaries, while also preserving your health for life beyond competition. The technical expertise that you had developed over years of high-level training and competition had made you a valuable resource for other fighters and coaches who sought to benefit from your knowledge and experience. Sharing this expertise had become an important part of your contribution to the sport and a source of personal satisfaction that complemented your competitive achievements. Your understanding of your own psychological patterns and triggers had reached a level that allowed for highly effective self-management and performance optimization in the most challenging circumstances. This self-knowledge had been developed through years of competition and analysis and had become one of your most valuable competitive assets. The lifestyle adaptations that you had made to support your competitive career had required significant sacrifices, but had also provided structure and purpose that enhanced other aspects of your life. The discipline and focus required for high-level competition had benefits that extended into all areas of personal and professional development. Your relationships with other elite competitors had evolved into a network of mutual respect and shared understanding that transcended immediate competitive concerns, creating a community of individuals who appreciated the unique demands and rewards of high-level athletic competition. These relationships provided support and perspective that were invaluable during both successful and challenging periods. The business acumen that you had developed through managing your career and various opportunities had created additional revenue streams and investment opportunities that provided security and options for your future beyond competition. This financial literacy had been as important to your long-term success as your fighting abilities, though it had required entirely different skills and perspectives. Your public image and reputation had been carefully cultivated over years of consistent behavior and decision-making that reflected your personal values while also meeting the legitimate expectations of fans, media, and business partners. This reputation had become one of your most valuable assets, opening doors and creating opportunities throughout your career. The health and wellness protocols that you had developed were comprehensive systems that addressed every aspect of physical and mental well-being necessary for sustained high performance. These systems had been refined through years of experimentation and had proven their effectiveness in maintaining competitive capability over extended periods. Your contribution to the technical evolution of the sport had been recognized by competitors and coaches around the world, with innovations and insights from your career influencing training methods and fighting techniques at all levels of competition. This legacy of technical contribution was something that would continue to influence the sport long after your competitive career had ended. The mentorship relationships that you had developed with younger fighters had become some of the most rewarding aspects of your continued involvement in the sport, providing opportunities to share knowledge while also learning from fresh perspectives and approaches. These relationships had enriched your own understanding while also contributing to the development of the next generation of competitors. Your approach to competition preparation had become a model that was studied and emulated by fighters and coaches around the world. Though you understood that individual differences meant that successful adaptation required intelligent modification rather than simple imitation. The principles underlying your approach were more important than the specific methods, and you took pride in contributing to the broader understanding of what elite preparation required. The international perspective that you had gained through competing around the world had informed your understanding of different cultural approaches to martial arts and competition, enriching your own knowledge while also providing insights that benefited your performance and your contribution to the sport's global development. Your legacy in the sport was already secure, but you continued to compete and contribute because you understood that your influence extended beyond just your own achievements to include your role in advancing the sport and inspiring others to pursue excellence in their own endeavors. This broader purpose provided motivation that transcended personal ambition and connected your efforts to something larger than yourself. The twilight of your competitive career approached not with the dramatic suddenness that many might expect, but rather like the gradual shift from afternoon to evening, where the light slowly changes in quality and intensity, creating new shadows and revealing different aspects of the landscape that had been your professional life for so many years. You found yourself sitting in the same gym where you had spent countless hours perfecting your craft, but now your presence there carried a different weight, a different meaning than it had in those hungry early days when every training session felt like a step toward some distant dream. The young fighters who trained alongside you now looked at you with a reverence that both honored and unsettled you, seeing in your weathered hands and scarred face the physical evidence of battles fought and victories earned at the highest levels of competition. They would ask questions about specific fights or training methods, and you would answer with the patient wisdom of someone who had learned that knowledge shared was knowledge multiplied, understanding that your legacy would live on not just in record books, but in the techniques and approaches that you passed on to the next generation. Your body spoke to you in a different language now, one that required careful translation and constant attention to decode the messages it sent about readiness, fatigue, and the accumulated wear of years spent pushing human physical limitations to their breaking points. The morning ritual of assessment had become more complex, involving not just the simple question of how you felt, but the more nuanced evaluation of what your body could realistically be expected to deliver on any given day. The conversations with your medical team had evolved from discussions of optimization to discussions of management, from talks about how to get better to talks about how to maintain what you had built over so many years of dedicated effort. Your relationship with pain had become more sophisticated, understanding the difference between the temporary discomfort of hard training and the warning signals that indicated more serious concerns, requiring immediate attention and careful consideration. Your training sessions themselves had transformed from the relentless pursuit of new capabilities to the careful maintenance of existing ones, though this shift required no less dedication or intelligence than your previous approach had demanded. The wisdom you had accumulated allowed you to train more efficiently, focusing your limited energy and recovery capacity on the areas where improvement was still possible, while maintaining the skills that had brought you success throughout your career. The decision-making process around potential fights had become increasingly complex, with considerations that extended far beyond the immediate challenge or financial reward, to include the long-term implications for your health, your legacy, and your life beyond competition. Your team understood that every potential matchup required careful analysis, not just of the competitive aspects, but also of the broader context within which such a fight would take place. Your relationship with your own ambition had evolved in ways that surprised even you, shifting from the pure hunger of youth to a more measured appreciation of what competition could provide and what it demanded in return. You had learned to find satisfaction in different aspects of performance and preparation, understanding that excellence could be expressed in ways beyond just winning and losing, though the competitive fire still burned with sufficient intensity to fuel your continued participation. The media attention that surrounded your career during this period carried a different tenor than it had during your peak years, with journalists and fans beginning to ask questions about your future plans and your thoughts on retirement, topics that you approached with the same methodical consideration that you brought to all important decisions. These conversations forced you to articulate thoughts and feelings about your career that you had perhaps not fully examined yourself. Your family relationships had reached a new level of understanding and appreciation, with your loved ones having witnessed the full arc of your career from the uncertain beginnings through the triumphant peak years, and now into this more reflective phase. They understood better than anyone the sacrifices that your career had required and the rewards that it had provided, and their support remained as important as it had ever been throughout your journey. The financial security that your success had provided gave you the luxury of making decisions based on factors beyond just economic necessity, allowing you to be selective about opportunities and to prioritize considerations like personal satisfaction, competitive challenge, and contribution to the sport over simple monetary gain. This freedom was something you had worked toward for years, and you appreciated the options that it provided. Your training partners during this period were carefully selected for their ability to provide the specific types of challenges and preparation that your evolved approach required, understanding that your needs were different now than they had been during your peak competitive years. These relationships required different dynamics and different expectations, but they were no less important for your continued development and maintenance as a high-level competitor. The gym environment that you had helped create over the years had become a legacy in itself, a place where fighters from around the world came to train and learn, drawn by the reputation and expertise that you and your team had built through years of successful preparation and competition. Your presence there had become part of the culture and tradition of the place, contributing to an atmosphere that inspired excellence in everyone who trained there. Your approach to nutrition and physical preparation had been refined to near perfection through years of experimentation and the integration of cutting-edge sports science with practical experience gained through countless training camps and competitions. This system had become a model for other fighters, while also providing you with confidence that your preparation was as thorough and effective as possible given the realities of your current situation. The charitable work and community involvement that had become increasingly important to you provided perspective and fulfillment that complemented your competitive pursuits, while also creating positive impact beyond just your own career achievements. These activities reminded you of the broader context within which your career existed and the responsibilities that came with the platform that your success had provided. Your understanding of your own psychological patterns and needs had reached a level of sophistication that allowed for highly effective self-management in both competitive and non-competitive contexts, providing tools and strategies that would serve you well regardless of what the future held. This self-knowledge had been hard-won through years of experience and analysis, and it represented one of your most valuable personal assets. The strategic partnerships and business relationships that you had developed over the years had created a network of opportunities and resources that extended far beyond your fighting career, providing foundations for continued success and influence in whatever directions your future interests might lead. These relationships had been built on mutual respect and shared values, creating lasting value for all parties involved. Your influence on the technical and strategic evolution of the sport had been recognized and appreciated by competitors, coaches, and fans around the world, with innovations and insights from your career continuing to influence training methods and fighting techniques at all levels of competition. This contribution to the sport's development was something that would continue to have impact long after your own competitive career had ended. The international relationships and cultural understanding that you had developed through competing around the world had enriched your personal perspective, while also contributing to the global development and appreciation of martial arts competition. These experiences had made you a more complete person, while also enhancing your effectiveness as a competitor and ambassador for the sport. Your training philosophy had evolved to emphasize sustainability and intelligent progression over short-term gains, recognizing that longevity in high-level competition required careful resource management and strategic decision-making over extended periods. This approach had proven its effectiveness in allowing you to maintain competitive capability longer than many of your contemporaries, while also preserving your health for life beyond competition. The mentorship role that you had naturally assumed with younger fighters had become one of the most rewarding aspects of your continued involvement in the sport, providing opportunities to share hard-won knowledge and experience while also learning from fresh perspectives and innovative approaches. These relationships had enriched your own understanding while also contributing to the development of the next generation of competitors. Your public speaking and communication skills had developed to the point where you could effectively articulate complex ideas about competition, preparation, and the mental aspects of high-level athletic performance to diverse audiences ranging from other fighters to business leaders, to academic researchers interested in peak performance. These abilities had opened doors to opportunities beyond just fighting, while also allowing you to contribute to broader understanding of what elite competition required. The recovery and regeneration protocols that you had developed were as sophisticated as your training methods, recognizing that the ability to recover effectively was just as important as the ability to train intensively, particularly as the demands of maintaining high performance levels increased with age and accumulated wear from years of competition. Your relationship with competition itself had evolved from something purely focused on winning to something that encompassed broader goals related to performance excellence, personal development, and contribution to the sport's advancement. This evolution had made competition more complex, but also more meaningful, providing satisfaction that extended beyond just the immediate results of individual contests. The business acumen that you had developed through managing your career and various opportunities had created multiple revenue streams and investment possibilities that provided security and options for your future beyond active competition. This financial sophistication had been as important to your long-term success as your fighting abilities, though it had required developing entirely different skill sets and perspectives. Your approach to managing the unique pressures and expectations of high-level competition had evolved into a comprehensive system for maintaining mental health and optimal performance under extreme stress, with applications that extended beyond just fighting to any high-pressure situation where peak performance was required. This system had proven its effectiveness in the most demanding circumstances and had become part of your permanent toolkit for success. The lifestyle modifications that you had made to support your competitive career had required significant sacrifices, but had also provided structure and purpose that enhanced other aspects of your life. With the discipline and focus required for elite competition, creating habits and perspectives that benefited all areas of personal and professional development. Your relationships with other elite competitors had evolved into a network of mutual respect and shared understanding that transcended immediate competitive concerns, creating a community of individuals who appreciated the unique demands and rewards of high-level athletic competition, while also providing support and perspective during both successful and challenging periods. The health and wellness protocols that you had developed represented comprehensive systems that addressed every aspect of physical and mental well-being necessary for sustained high performance, refined through years of experimentation, and proven effective in maintaining competitive capability over extended periods while also supporting overall life quality. Your public image and reputation had been carefully cultivated through years of consistent behavior and decision-making that reflected your personal values, while also meeting the legitimate expectations of fans, media, and business partners, creating one of your most valuable professional assets and opening doors throughout your career. The technical expertise that you had accumulated over years of high-level training and competition had made you a sought-after resource for other fighters and coaches who wanted to benefit from your knowledge and experience, with sharing this expertise becoming an important part of your contribution to the sport and a source of personal satisfaction that complemented your competitive achievements. Your legacy considerations had become increasingly prominent in your decision-making process, with each potential opportunity evaluated not just for its immediate benefits, but also for its impact on how your career would be remembered, and what it would contribute to the broader story of the sport's development during your era. The international recognition and respect that you had earned through years of high-level performance had opened doors to experiences and opportunities that had enriched your life in ways that extended far beyond just professional success, broadening your perspective and deepening your appreciation for the global community of which you had become an integral part. Your training methodology had become a subject of study and emulation by fighters and coaches around the world, though you understood that successful adaptation required intelligent modification rather than simple imitation, with the underlying principles being more important than the specific methods and techniques. The mental preparation techniques that you had developed for managing competition stress and performance pressure had applications beyond just fighting, providing benefits in other areas of your life where high-level performance was required, and creating a toolkit of psychological strategies that would serve you well regardless of future challenges and opportunities. Your contribution to the sport's technical evolution had been recognized by the international fighting community, with innovations and insights from your career influencing training methods and competitive strategies at all levels, while also contributing to the broader understanding of what was possible in terms of human athletic performance and martial arts application. The wisdom that you had accumulated through years of high-level competition and the various challenges and opportunities that had accompanied your career provided perspective and insight that extended far beyond just fighting, creating understanding and capabilities that would serve you well in whatever directions your future interests and opportunities might lead. Your approach to competition preparation had become increasingly systematic and efficient, with detailed protocols for every aspect of physical, technical, and mental preparation that had been refined through experience and proven effective in the most demanding competitive circumstances, providing both confidence and structure for important moments. The charitable initiatives and community involvement that had become part of your regular activities provided important perspective and fulfillment that complemented your competitive pursuits, while also creating positive impact that extended beyond your own career achievements, connecting your success to broader purposes and meanings. Your understanding of the sport's history and traditions had deepened over the years, giving you perspective on your own place within the broader narrative of martial arts development and competition, while also informing your approach to both competition and your role in contributing to the sport's continued evolution and growth. The international fighting community had become a familiar network of competitors, coaches, officials, and other professionals who shared a common understanding of the demands and rewards of high-level competition, providing support and perspective that enriched the entire experience of being a professional fighter, while also creating lasting relationships and connections. Your relationship with your own physical capabilities had evolved to incorporate realistic assessment of what could be expected at different stages of your career, allowing for intelligent adjustment of goals and methods while maintaining the high standards and competitive intensity that had characterized your approach throughout your time in the sport. The business relationships and strategic partnerships that you had developed had created a foundation of opportunities and resources that would continue to provide value and options long after your competitive career had ended. Built on mutual respect and shared commitment to excellence that transcended immediate transactional considerations. Your influence on younger fighters extended beyond just technical instruction to include modeling of professional behavior, work ethic, and approach to the various challenges and opportunities that came with pursuing excellence in such a demanding and unforgiving sport, creating impact that would continue through their careers and their own influence on future generations. The realization that your competitive career was nearing its natural conclusion came not as a sudden revelation, but as a gradual understanding that had been building over months and years of careful observation and honest self-assessment, like watching the slow change of seasons, where each day brought subtle shifts that accumulated into undeniable transformation. You found yourself in quiet moments between training sessions or late at night, when sleep proved elusive, contemplating what it would mean to step away from the arena that had defined so much of your adult life and shaped your identity in ways both profound and subtle. The conversations about your future had begun appearing with increasing frequency in interviews and casual discussions with friends and colleagues, people wanting to know what came next for someone who had achieved everything that the sport could offer and had contributed so significantly to its development and prestige. You found yourself deflecting many of these inquiries not out of secrecy, but because you were still working through the complex emotions and practical considerations that such a monumental life transition would inevitably involve. Your training sessions during this period took on a different quality, imbued with an awareness that each one might be among the last in a career that had spanned decades and taken you to heights that few athletes in any sport ever reach. There was both melancholy and celebration in these sessions, as you savored the familiar rhythms and rituals while also acknowledging that this chapter of your life would eventually need to close to allow new chapters to begin. The younger fighters in your gym watched you with an intensity that went beyond their usual attention to technical details, perhaps sensing that they were witnessing the final period of an era and wanting to absorb whatever wisdom and inspiration they could from your presence and your approach to training and competition. You tried to be mindful of this responsibility, understanding that your example during this transition period would influence how they thought about their own careers and their own eventual relationships with retirement and change. Your family had begun discussing what life might look like when the demands of active competition no longer structured your daily routine and determined your priorities. And these conversations revealed both excitement about new possibilities and some uncertainty about how to navigate such a significant life change after so many years of single-minded focus on fighting excellence. The business opportunities and partnerships that had been developing throughout your career offered intriguing possibilities for your post-fighting future, from coaching and gym ownership to media work and corporate partnerships that could leverage your expertise and reputation, while also providing new challenges and sources of satisfaction beyond the purely competitive realm that had consumed your attention for so long. Your relationship with your own body had evolved to the point where you could detect subtle changes and signals that indicated your physical capabilities were naturally declining from their peak levels, not dramatically or suddenly, but with the kind of gradual shift that was inevitable for any athlete who had competed at the highest levels for extended periods, while accumulating the kind of wear that such competition necessarily involved. The strategic considerations around potential final fights involved complex calculations about opponents, timing, locations, and the kind of conclusion that would best serve your legacy, while also providing appropriate challenges and meaningful competition for someone of your experience and capabilities. These decisions required balancing multiple competing priorities and perspectives from various advisors and stakeholders, who all had different views about what would constitute the most appropriate conclusion to your competitive career. Your training had evolved to focus more on maintaining existing capabilities rather than developing new ones, though this shift required no less discipline or intelligence than your previous approaches had demanded. Simply different priorities and different methods adapted to your current situation and realistic assessment of what was achievable at this stage of your career. The media attention surrounding your potential retirement plans brought both welcome opportunities to reflect publicly on your career and its meaning, and also unwelcome pressure to make definitive statements about timing and circumstances before you had fully worked through all the considerations that such important decisions required. Your charitable work and community involvement had expanded during this period, providing outlets for your energy and passion that complemented your competitive pursuits, while also creating foundations for continued meaningful activity after your fighting career had concluded, connecting your success to broader purposes that would continue regardless of your competition status. The international relationships and cultural connections that you had developed through competing around the world had created a global network of friends and professional contacts who would continue to enrich your life regardless of whether you continued competing, providing ongoing opportunities for travel, business ventures, and cultural exchange that extended far beyond the fighting world. Your influence on the technical and strategic evolution of the sport had reached the point where your contributions were being studied and implemented by fighters and coaches who had never even met you, creating a legacy of innovation and improvement that would continue to influence the sport's development long after your own direct participation had ended. The mentorship relationships that you had developed with younger fighters had become increasingly important sources of satisfaction and meaning, providing opportunities to share hard-won wisdom while also learning from fresh perspectives and approaches that kept your own understanding of the sport dynamic and current despite your years of experience. Your financial planning and investment decisions had created security and options that allowed you to approach retirement from competition without the financial pressures that forced many fighters to continue competing beyond their optimal periods, giving you the luxury of making decisions based on personal fulfillment and legacy considerations, rather than just economic necessity. The gym that had been your second home for so many years had evolved partly in response to your presence and influence, becoming a place where fighters from around the world came to train and learn, creating an environment that would continue to honor your approach and philosophy. Even after your own daily presence, there had diminished or changed in character. Your approach to managing the unique psychological pressures of high-level competition had evolved into sophisticated systems for maintaining mental health and optimal performance that had applications far beyond just fighting, providing tools and strategies that would serve you well in whatever post-competition challenges and opportunities the future might present. The recovery and regeneration protocols that you had developed over years of high-level training and competition had become as important as your actual training methods, representing comprehensive approaches to maintaining physical and mental well-being that would continue to benefit you long after the immediate demands of competition preparation were no longer driving your daily routines. Your public speaking and communication abilities had developed to the point where you could effectively share your experiences and insights with diverse audiences, creating opportunities for continued influence and contribution to various fields beyond just martial arts, from business leadership to sports psychology to personal development and motivation. The business acumen that you had developed through managing your career and various opportunities had created multiple revenue streams and ongoing ventures that would provide both financial security and intellectual engagement during your transition away from active competition, ensuring that retirement from fighting would not mean retirement from meaningful and challenging work. Your relationship with competition itself had evolved from something purely focused on personal achievement to something that encompassed broader goals related to sport development, mentorship, and contribution to the fighting community, creating foundations for continued involvement even if your own competitive participation eventually concluded. The health and wellness systems that you had developed were comprehensive approaches that addressed every aspect of physical and mental well-being necessary for sustained high performance, refined through years of experimentation and proven effective not just for competition, but for overall life quality and longevity. Your legacy in the sport was already secure through your competitive achievements, but you understood that how you handled the transition away from active competition would also influence how you were remembered and what kind of example you set for other fighters facing similar decisions about when and how to conclude their own careers. The international recognition and respect that you had earned had opened doors to opportunities and experiences that enriched your life far beyond just professional success, creating a global perspective and network of relationships that would continue to provide value and meaning regardless of your competition status. Your training philosophy and methodology had become subjects of study and emulation around the world, though you understood that their true value lay not in specific techniques or protocols, but in the underlying principles of intelligent preparation, continuous learning, and commitment to excellence that could be applied in many different contexts. The mental preparation techniques and psychological strategies that you had developed for managing competition stress and performance pressure had proven their effectiveness in the most demanding circumstances, while also providing tools for success in any high-pressure environment, creating capabilities that would serve you well in future challenges. Your contribution to the sport's evolution had been recognized by the international fighting community, with innovations and insights from your career continuing to influence training methods, competitive strategies, and professional standards at all levels of competition, ensuring that your impact would continue long after your own participation had ended. The wisdom and perspective that you had accumulated through years of high-level competition and the various challenges and opportunities that had accompanied your career provided understanding and insight that extended far beyond just fighting, creating value and capability that would serve you well regardless of what directions your future interests might take. Your approach to balancing the demands of competition with other life priorities had evolved into a sophisticated understanding of how to maintain excellence while also preserving relationships, health, and perspectives that were important for long-term well-being and satisfaction, providing a model for how athletes could successfully navigate the unique challenges of elite competition. The charitable initiatives and community involvement that had become increasingly important to you had created positive impact that extended far beyond your own career achievements, while also providing sources of meaning and fulfillment that would continue to enrich your life, regardless of your competition status. Your understanding of your own psychological patterns, motivations, and needs had reached a level of sophistication that allowed for highly effective self-management in both competitive and non-competitive contexts, providing tools and strategies that would serve you well in whatever transitions and challenges the future might present. The business relationships and strategic partnerships that you had developed had created foundations for continued success and influence that extended far beyond your fighting career, built on mutual respect and shared commitment to excellence that would provide ongoing value and opportunities for meaningful work and contribution. Your influence on younger fighters extended beyond technical instruction to include modeling of professional behavior, work ethic, and approach to the various challenges and opportunities that came with pursuing excellence in such a demanding field, creating impact that would continue through their careers and their own influence on future generations of competitors. The lifestyle and habits that you had developed to support your competitive career had created discipline and perspectives that would benefit all areas of your life, with the focus and dedication required for elite competition, translating into capabilities and approaches that would serve you well in any future endeavors. Your relationship with your own ambitions and goals had evolved to encompass broader purposes and meanings beyond just personal achievement, creating foundations for continued growth and contribution that would provide satisfaction and direction regardless of whether competitive success remained available as a primary source of motivation and identity. The international fighting community had become a network of lasting relationships and connections that transcended immediate competitive concerns, providing ongoing opportunities for collaboration, learning, and contribution that would continue to enrich your life and provide avenues for meaningful involvement in the sport's continued development. Your technical expertise and competitive insights had become resources that were valued by fighters, coaches, and other professionals throughout the sport, creating opportunities for continued influence and contribution through teaching, consulting, and mentorship that would allow you to remain involved while transitioning away from personal competition. The reflection and analysis that this transitional period required had provided deeper understanding of your own career arc and its place within the broader story of the sport's development during your era, creating perspective and appreciation for what you had accomplished, while also clarifying what kinds of future contributions might be most valuable and meaningful. The final decision, when it finally crystallized in your mind, with the clarity that had characterized all your most important choices throughout your career, came during a quiet morning training session where everything felt exactly as it always had, yet somehow fundamentally different in ways that you couldn't fully explain but understood with complete certainty. You were working through familiar combinations on the heavy bag, your body moving with the fluid precision that had taken decades to develop, when you realized that you had already fought your last professional fight, though you hadn't known it at the time. The announcement of your retirement was handled with the same methodical consideration that you had brought to every significant decision throughout your career, carefully crafted to honor the sport that had given you so much while also expressing your genuine gratitude to the fans, training partners, coaches, and family members who had made your journey possible and meaningful. The words came easily because they represented authentic feelings and thoughts that had been developing over months of reflection and consideration. The response from the fighting community was overwhelming in its warmth and appreciation, with tributes pouring in from competitors, coaches, media members, and fans around the world who wanted to acknowledge your contributions to the sport and express their respect for how you had conducted yourself throughout your career. These messages provided validation that your efforts to compete with honor and dignity had been noticed and appreciated by those whose opinions mattered most to you. Your final training sessions at the gym carried a bittersweet quality, filled with the familiar sounds and rhythms that had structured your daily life for so many years, but now experienced with the awareness that this phase of your relationship with this place and these people was coming to an end. The younger fighters continued to seek your guidance and example, perhaps understanding that they were witnessing the conclusion of an era and wanting to absorb whatever final lessons and inspiration they could. The transition away from the daily demands of competition preparation felt both liberating and disorienting, as you suddenly had time and energy available for pursuits and relationships that had necessarily been secondary priorities during your competitive years. This adjustment required patience and experimentation, as you discovered new rhythms and routines that could provide structure and purpose without the external framework that competition had always supplied. Your business ventures and investment activities expanded to fill more of your time and attention, providing intellectual challenges and opportunities for continued growth and achievement in arenas that were completely different from fighting, but that could leverage the discipline, strategic thinking, and work ethic that you had developed through years of high-level competition. These pursuits offered their own satisfactions and rewards while also ensuring financial security for your future. The charitable work and community involvement that had begun during your competitive career became increasingly central to your daily activities, providing opportunities to use your platform and resources to create positive impact, while also connecting your success to broader purposes and meanings that extended far beyond personal achievement. This work brought its own fulfillment and sense of contribution that enriched your life in unexpected ways. Your role as a mentor to younger fighters evolved into something more formal and systematic, with you developing structured approaches to sharing knowledge and experience, while also learning from the fresh perspectives and innovations that each new generation brought to the sport. These relationships provided ongoing connection to the fighting world, while also allowing you to contribute to its continued development and improvement. The media opportunities and speaking engagements that came your way allowed you to articulate your experiences and insights to broader audiences, creating platforms for influence and education that extended far beyond just the fighting community to include business leaders, students, and others who could benefit from understanding what pursuing excellence required and what lessons could be drawn from a career spent at the highest levels of competition. Your family relationships deepened and evolved as you had more time and emotional energy available for the people who mattered most to you, creating opportunities to strengthen bonds and create new memories that had sometimes been difficult to prioritize during the intense focus required for competitive success. This shift brought its own rewards and satisfactions that complemented your professional achievements. The international network of relationships that you had built through competing around the world continued to provide opportunities for travel, cultural exchange, and business ventures that kept your life dynamic and engaging, while also maintaining connections to the global community that had been such an important part of your competitive career. Your technical expertise and competitive insights remained in high demand from fighters and coaches who wanted to benefit from your knowledge and experience, creating consulting opportunities and teaching roles that allowed you to stay connected to the sport's technical development, while also providing new challenges and sources of professional satisfaction. The health and wellness protocols that you had developed over years of high-level training and competition continued to serve you well as you transitioned into this new phase of life, providing foundations for maintaining physical and mental well-being, while also adapting to different demands and priorities that came with retirement from active competition. Your legacy in the sport was secure through your competitive achievements and your contributions to its technical and professional development. But you understood that how you handled retirement and what you chose to do with the platform and resources that your career had provided would also influence how you were remembered and what kind of example you set for future generations of fighters. The reflection and analysis that retirement allowed provided deeper appreciation for your career arc and its place within the broader story of the sport's evolution during your era, creating perspective on what you had accomplished, while also clarifying determine what kinds of future contributions might be most valuable and meaningful for the fighting community and beyond. Your approach to this major life transition was characterized by the same thoughtfulness and strategic planning that had marked your competitive career, with careful consideration of various options and opportunities, while also remaining open to unexpected developments and new directions that might emerge as you explore different possibilities for meaningful engagement and contribution. The wisdom and perspective that you had accumulated through years of high-level competition and the various challenges and opportunities that had accompanied your career provided valuable resources for navigating this transition, while also creating foundations for success in whatever new endeavors you chose to pursue in the years ahead. And so your competitive career reached its natural conclusion, not with dramatic fanfare or sudden endings, but with the quiet satisfaction of someone who had given everything to the pursuit of excellence and had been rewarded with experiences, achievements, and relationships that would enrich the remainder of your life in ways both expected and surprising, leaving behind a legacy of technical innovation, professional conduct, and competitive achievement that would continue to influence and inspire long after your own direct participation in the sport had ended, while opening new chapters of contribution and fulfillment that built upon everything you had learned and accomplished as Life Musashi, a fighter who had truly embodied the highest ideals of martial arts competition and had shown what was possible when natural talent was combined with unwavering dedication, intelligent preparation, and genuine respect for the sport and everyone who shared in its pursuit of human excellence through controlled combat, creating a story that would be remembered and studied by future generations of fighters who would look to your example for guidance on how to achieve greatness while maintaining dignity, honor, and connection to the broader purposes that made such achievement meaningful and worthwhile in the first place.